Hello everyone, welcome to Real Literature. In this video, I want to discuss about MULK RAJ ANAND. So, MULK RAJ ANAND was born on December 12, 1905 in Peshawar, India. Now Peshawar is Pakistan. He was an Indian writer in English. He was one of the pioneer of Indo-Anglian fiction. MULK RAJ ANAND, R.K. Narayan, Ahmad Ali, and Raja Rao were the pioneers of Indo-Anglian fiction. He was one of the first India-based writers in English to gain an international readership. He was well known for his novels and short stories. He was a prominent Indian author of novels, short stories, and critical essays in English. He is considered a founder of English language Indian novel, and his father's name was Lal Chand. He was the son of a coppersmith, uh, which means, in Hindi, Thatera, who later became a soldier. And his mother name was Ishwar Kaur, and she was a farmer. MULK RAJ Anand married Kathleen Van Gelder, English actress, and she was communist in 1938. After 10 years, he divorced her in 1948. His second wife was Shirin Wajifdar. She was born in Bombay, India, and she married MULK RAJ Anand in 1950. She was his second wife. She was an Indian classical dancer, choreographer, and instructor and critic. She was a Kathak dancer. And when it comes to MULK RAJ Anand's education, he attended Khalsa College, Amritsar, and entered the University of Punjab in 1921. He got his higher education from Punjab University in Lahore. He graduated with honors from there in 1924. Later, he went to Britain and pursued additional study at the University of Cambridge. He also studied at University College in London, receiving his PhD in 1929. While at college, he became involved in the non-cooperation movement in 1921, and for a short while he was imprisoned. When he was spending time in Geneva, he lectured at the League of Nations International Committee on Intellectual Cooperations. He also lectured on and off between 1932 and 1945 at Workers' Educational Association in India. And his literary life is like MULK RAJ Anand wrote from a young age. He had faced social and religious difficulties for his love. He had a love for a Muslim girl, and unfortunately, she was already married. So, his first prose essay came after the suicide of an aunt ostracized by her family for sharing a meal with a Muslim woman. Many incidents like these incidents inspired him to write to vent his frustration through words, and he's best known for his depiction of the poorer class of people in India and their plight. He had depicted the lives of the poorer caste in traditional Indian society, and he had written hundreds of novels and short stories. He also considered the first writer to incorporate Punjabi and Hindustani idioms into English. And when it comes to his career and occupation, so he was a torchbearer of the 20th century progressive writers movement. He had drafted the first manifesto of the Literary Association. He was the founding father of Indian English novel. He was also the secretary of Progressive Writers Association, and he belonged to the 20th century, which means the modern age. And his famous works are The Untouchable. It was published in 1935. It was his first novel. It exposed the lives of India's untouchable, which means, you already know, untouchable means achut. So it was his first novel. Untouchable was his first novel. It exposed the lives of Indian untouchable caste. It tells the story of Baha, a toilet cleaner. He faces many humiliations, pain of untouchability. And MULK RAJ Anand used Punjabi and Hindi idiom in English. Untouchable. It brought more reputation for him as India's Charles Dickens. Its introduction was written by E.M. Forster, He and E.M. Forrester became a friend while he was working on T.S. Eliot's magazine. And okay, his second work is Coolie, and it was published in 1936. This novel was published in 1936. It reinforced his name and fame and made him one of India's leading English authors. It criticized the British rule in India and India's caste system. It presents the plight of a 14 years old boy, Muno. He faces poverty and social exploitation. So that time, Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh launched a commemorative edition including Coolie in 2004. His first novel, Untouchable, which was I already said that it was published in 1935, is his first novel. It begins with scenes of public latrines, dirty bazaars, lanes, alleys, and gutters. It got criticism from English critic. Once he traveled to Ireland, he met George Russell and W.B. Yeats. W.B. Yeats means his full name is William Butler Yeats. He told an incident that occurred in Wolfe's drawing room. George Russell advised him to return to India. So that time, according to Mulk Raj Anand, he said, "Son, go back to Gandhi for a year. He is struggling against the rejection of outcaste. At the same time, he is fighting against imperialism." George Russell wrote to Gandhi on Mulk Raj Anand's behalf. He also wrote to Gandhi asking if he could visit. Gandhiji replied saying, come of March 1927. So Mulk Raj Anand went to Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad and showed a draft of the Untouchable to Gandhiji. Gandhiji told, "I have looked at your novel. You seem to use big words as Harij and Sai, mourn and groan. They do not use such heavy words." Gandhiji suggested him to use simpler language and transliterate what they say. So after that, Mulk Raj Anand rewrote the entire novel in the ashram, and Gandhi approved its final draft, although 19 publishers rejected the manuscript. Lawrence and Wishart, a small publishing company, published the novel Untouchable in 1935. Mulk Raj Anand's friend E.M. Forrester noted the preface of the novel and helped him in publishing the novel Untouchable. He said about the novel, "None of us is pure. We shouldn't be alive if we were, but to the straightforward, all things can become pure, and it is to the directness of his attacks that Mr. Anand's success is probably due." Finally, his novel Untouchable brought name and fame to him, and it was translated into many other languages. Baha, the hero, belongs to downtrodden race, and his novel Untouchable brought name and fame to him. So his awards, he won International Peace Prize from World Peace Council in 1953. He won Padma Bhushan Award in 1967, and he won the Sahitya Academy Award in 1971. And his most famous works are Untouchable, and it was published in 1935. Coolie, it was published in 1936. Two Leaves and a Bird, it was published in 1937. And The Village, it was published in 1939. Across the Black Waters, it was published in 1939. The Sword and the Sickle, it was published in 1942. The Big Heart, so this work was published in 1945. The Lost Child, it was published in 1934. Seven Summers, a Memoir, it was published in 1951. The Private Life of an Indian Prince, it was published in 1953. The Old Woman and the Cow, The Old Woman and the Cow. So this work of him was published in 1960. The Road, this work was published in 1961. And The Death of a Hero, so this work was published in 1964. Now we will discuss critical comments on Mulk Raj Anand. He was mocked by an English critic, Edward Sackville West, for trying to write a novel about a lower caste protagonist. According to Mulk Raj Anand, the critic said, "Oh, there can be no novel about the poor. One can only laugh at the cockneys like Dickens. This unnerved me and made me feel hopeless, and my confessional. Later, that novel turned out to be his seminal debut book, Untouchable, which was published in 1935. And at last, his death, of course. So he died from pneumonia in Pune on September 28, 2004, and he was 98 years old when he died. So he lived a very long life. So here my video is ending, and I hope you all like the information about Mulk Raj Anand.